A little while back I looked into a game called Spacebourne 2, an indie space sim type of a game. Among space nerds, this game holds a certain beloved status, since one developer managed to replicate a lot of features and gameplay, even if jankily, of what the big games have. However, very quickly I noticed something disturbing. Where have I seen this model? Where have I seen this model? I mean, yeah, it's obviously a copy-paste of a, oh, no. That model I recognize. Guys. Guys, no. No. So, is Spacebourne 2 stealing assets? Now, I put off talking about this for a while, but we really have to ask the question. Is this game, Spacebourne 2, being sold on Steam for a good couple of years by now for $20 and with over 3,500 reviews, stealing assets? Or is it infringing IP? Or perhaps am I misunderstanding something here? So first off, the funnest part that the internet tends to forget always, the context. The developer DBK Games one day contacted me, offering a review copy if I wanted to check out Spacebourne 2, and I accepted. So my original coverage I'll leave down below, but the long story short, I tried being goofy and fun and not take things too seriously. In fact, I was genuinely surprised how many features, even if half broken, badly designed or, well, thrown together like an Assetflip, still managed to do what, let's say, Star Citizen or Elite Dangerous have accomplished. And it was made by one Turkish developer. That's honestly commendable. During the opening mission/tutorial, you get to pick up some weapons, and this is where I noticed something immediately. Since I'm a first-person shooter game fanatic, one of the models looked awfully lot like something I've seen before. Is this weapon not from Star Citizen? And then the other one appeared, and this one I recognized even faster. Hold on, is this not the plasma rifle from Doom 2016? And so, after publishing my coverage, I contacted the developer asking these same questions. In fact, here's my full email message. I do, however, have to retract my following statement. Since I can't be 100% sure, let me rephrase it to correct my mistake here in good faith. Are these models the same models from previously mentioned games, namely Custodian SMG and Plasma Rifle from Star Citizen and Doom 2016, respectively? Now, while we're waiting for that answer, let's take an intermission and speak hypothetically. Now let's say there's an indie developer that decides to make their game and include copyrighted material or intellectual property, whether it is on purpose or by mistake, without any kind of licensing or knowledge from the IP holder, then decides to sell this game for profit on a game distribution store. What do you think would happen next? Would this indie developer not be liable for, I don't know, a lawsuit or any kind of other legal intervention? Now you could say that, well, maybe this game developer bought these assets fair and square from an asset store somewhere. And yeah, sure, it's not unfeasible for a game company to repackage their old assets and sell them off. Or maybe these big companies themselves are using assets from an asset pack. I mean, it's not unheard of. But then isn't it more likely that a company would protect its IP and not sell off or use resold assets as their iconic assets? Especially if the asset is being used in an unfinished, unreleased yet game. So I wonder, what would be more likely? What do you think? Now from the crowd, a straw man could say, well, fuck these companies, even if those hypothetical assets are copied or ripped from these more popular games, who cares? This is an indie developer, they have to save time and or money somehow after all. Besides those big games or companies, I mean, they have plenty of money already, they won't miss a few assets here and there, right? So, hold on, does that mean that a person has a moral and more so legal right to infringe on someone else's IP? Does it make it right to simply take from someone just because they're more successful / powerful or bigger? And okay, let's say that these hypothetical companies are actually hyper evil. So then does that make one wrong, make another one right? Yeah, well, funny these hypotheticals, aren't they? Now, before we move on, I hate that I even have to mention this, but buying assets from an asset store, using them instead of handcrafted personalized stuff is alright. In fact, I, the great and powerful TheYamiks, encourage it. These prepackaged assets are a great thing. However, where a game differs from being the so-called asset flip and a game simply using these pre-purchased assets is in their use, and the amount of fucks given by the developer, so to say. The shovelware garbage that a dude in his basement threw together in a Unity or Unreal Engine in about 10 minutes, with little to no work, is pure asset flip garbage. However, a developer picking up these assets and using them along with their own logic, coding, changes, and more to transform or flesh out their game is how games, yes, even good ones, especially on the budget, are made. So please, know the difference. So then back to Spacebourne 2. It has been over 3 months since I first sent that message, and got no answer to that. So, as part of making this, I once more sent a letter to the developer asking what's going on, essentially. In this time, Spacebourne also has released a bunch of patches and a bigger update, yet the models as of making this still appear in the game. And as luck would have it, the developer actually replied to the second message with the following statement. We have purchased them with proper licensing from platforms like Epic Asset Store, CG Trader, Sketchfab, ... Well, impressive, if true. So, how could this be? Now, I do really wonder, how could such strikingly iconic items, such as Plasma Rifle from Doom or Custodian SMG from Star Citizen of all places, could be resold and relicensed? Or the similarity is just coincidental and these are completely different things? Yeah, I do wonder. Now, as part of this investigation, I tried extracting said models from the game files, and after some arduous evening with crappy software, I did it. Labeled as Rifle 1 and Gun 2, both items along with a few other oddly high quality models were present. Now, when looking up Spaceborne's weapon and Star Citizen's Custodian SMG, you immediately notice at least a few differences. So I wonder, is this just an old version of a model that was ripped, or was this intentionally changed? Or maybe it was heavily inspired, or maybe TheYamiks is completely off base. I'd really like a clarification on this, especially since this model is being used in a trailer for a game dating as far back as January 1st, 2022. Remember that date, it'll be important. So, as I extracted the files, you can see all the folder structure and asset names. Now, this particular asset sits in a folder called Sci-Fi Arsenal Volume 1. A quick Google search later, I find the same asset pack being sold on fab.com for $40, along with a few other Arsenal packages. Curious that. So then hold on, is the seller of these packages to be blamed for similarities? And you know what makes this asset package seller more suspicious is the fact that every package was published on the same day, on September of 2024. It's almost like the seller, Chaiko3D as the Unreal forum handle goes, or Chaikachima on fab.com, had relisted these items. In fact, Chaiko3D posted this Arsenal page in 2019, yet the link still directs to the current working store page. I wonder why. But back to that asset pack seller Chaiko. As I was perusing their offerings, another model popped in my eye, something I recognized from somewhere else. Yeah, apparently one of the packages is selling an item that awfully looks a lot like something from Cyberpunk 2077. Oh, and you want to know the punchline for all of this? Apparently the account is Nigerian. How, interesting, isn't it? What's next? We're gonna learn that was a prince as well? But anyways, I kept on digging, and very quickly I found out that the concept art for these and a few other guns for Cyberpunk 2077 was made by Chris Thaler from Urbery. In fact, I'll list his ArtStation account down below. Go check him out, he's a cool dude. Anyways, I went through his past work and I spotted something really interesting, a concept art for Star Citizen weapon, or weapons. And would it surprise you if I said that something looked familiar again?
I thought this was a space...
Yep. There seems to be very similar model in Spacebourne as well. That, or I really need to get my eyes checked, because I genuinely am not sure anymore. Now, what makes this model a little weird is, first of all, it doesn't appear in Star Citizen, yet as far as my understanding goes with these concept arts, they are being commissioned by a company to an artist, and once the concept is delivered, the company gets to keep all the intellectual property rights, as well as the copyright and so on and so forth. But don't quote me on this one, this is as far as I understand these things. The bottom line is either the artist or the company who commissioned the artist get the ownership of that art, not some third-party people. But when it comes to Spacebourne 2, the, let's call it a not burst cannon, its model is not placed in the sci-fi arsenal folder. Yet on the other hand, the, let's call it a not plasma rifle, its files are placed in the sci-fi arsenal folder. So hold on, what is going on? Did the asset package seller remove the not plasma rifle from its listing later down the line? And or did Spacebourne 2 added these models from somewhere else? So I kept on digging. And lo and behold, I think I found the models I was looking for. In Sketchfab, a 3D model sharing site where pretty much anyone can make an account and upload whatever they want. And honestly, that's really cool. There you can upload whatever model you want and list it under appropriate licenses, be that only personal or Creative Commons, which allows you to use them in commercial products. That is, if you're the rights holder. And I bet nobody would mistakenly mark their models as their own, right? So let's look at the model called Burst Cannon. The creator mentions that this is not my concept, it's by Chris Thaler, fair enough. And then the modeling and texturing is done by the person making that model. Okay. And then the model itself is listed under the license of Creative Commons Attribution, which means that the model can be used in a commercial product. But hold on, this model was published 10 months ago. Okay, so I looked up a few other models like this one, and the oldest one was published 2 years ago. However, even this model was younger than the trailer for Spacebourne 2, where at the very beginning you can spot this item. Now let's give the benefit of the doubt and say that there was some sort of a model somewhere that was distributed under that CC attributions clause, and I simply failed to find it, which, yeah, could happen. Now here's the thing, I'm not a legal person, so I really don't know much of this, but is this legal? Are you really allowed to take someone's concept art that is licensed for some other company or a client, create a model of it, and slap a Creative Commons license on it, allowing anyone on the internet to use it in a commercial product further down the line? Is this allowed? No, seriously, I am curious, is this not an IP infringement? Because that not plasma rifle is also done in a similar fashion, where an artist has created a concept for a company who owns the IP, then a random dude from an internet makes a model of it as a passion project or something, and slaps a Creative Commons license on it. Again, allowing everyone to use it in a commercial product. Is this real? Now, but hold on, let's say that the asset seller is the bad guy here, right? And to be blamed for all the legal troubles. Does that mean that every game that uses these assets is off the hook? Well, honestly speaking, I'm not really sure. And while I'd like to say that, hey, accidents happen, you can buy accidentally a bad asset pack. For a developer who chooses to forego their own asset making, opting for buying pre-made ones, sadly the responsibility for vetting their legitimacy also falls onto them. That is the trade-off you're making, or at least as far as my understanding goes with these things. So I do genuinely wonder, did DBK Games not realize where these assets came from? Did DBK Games not recognize very obvious similarities between Doom 2016 Plasma Rifle and their own purchased assets? And so, while we're waiting for an answer, let's take a break, shall we? You remember those Hypotheticals? Yeah, I like them too. They're fun. Now let's say, hypothetically, that you're a budding developer and decide to make your own game and sell it for, I don't know, $20. And as a surprise, it is a success. At the bare minimum, 3,500 people have bought it. Well, that would net you around $70,000 minimum. Now, of course, not counting the platform fees. But that's a good amount of profit, isn't it? Even for an indie game, that's a good source of livelihood. You can be definitely proud of. Well, anyways, here's another hypothetical life lesson for you folks at home. Remember asset flips? Yeah, those lazy, good-for-nothing scams polluting Steam and other marketplaces. Would it shock you to learn that some of these asset flip games were made, and get this, with stolen asset packs they torrented from, let's say, a Russian site? Yeah, you know, I would hardly believe that too. And speaking of hypothetical crimes that hypothetically could have happened, for example, stealing assets, you know, it has a lot in common with plagiarism too. As in, once you find one instance of plagiarism, there usually is more. A lot more. And if you want to learn more about this totally unrelated topic, do check out H-Bomber Guy's video. I'll link it down below. But okay, let's return to the topic at hand. Spacebourne 2. I decided to check out the credits in-game, and maybe those would clear up some things. Oh, is that it? But hold on! The splash screen before the main menu claims that the game is powered by all manner of industry-known technologies like Fmod and so on. Well, that's kinda odd. Would you not be obligated as part of purchase and licensing agreements to credit them in the credits? Or what about those asset pack sellers or individual artists that use the Creative Commons license with attribution clause? I honestly struggle to find any crediting for that. Huh, that's weird. If they're not there, then, well, in good faith, I have to assume that these models are not required to be credited for, right? Yeah, that makes sense. Well, what do I know of game development, right? I'm just here asking a bunch of silly questions. Yep. So, in the end, if you found my, investigative journalism? No? Report? No, not really. Let's call it a silly question asking. Important, interesting, or just entertaining. Do feel free to check out the Patreon and support me there. I really appreciate it. Oh, and you know what's also pretty funny and completely unrelated? False DMCA claims. Now, did you know that they don't stick and can be legally binding for the claiming party? Yeah, that's a fun factoid. So, at the end of the day, it would be really cool to clear things up. After all, I much rather prefer to have egg on my face than discover something really, really shitty, right? And I think you agree with that. So, I guess at the end of the day, the lesson is simple. If you're gonna be purchasing or taking free assets, you too have the responsibility to check their, legality, shall we say. And as far as I understand, you're not off the hook if they turn out to be less than. Yeah, but anyways, TheYamiks is just talking to himself. Have a nice evening.